This D&D video is brought to you by another D&D channel, Tabletop for the End of the World. More about them later in the video. Howdy friendos, my name is Stuart.
Wait a minute!
And yes, I know this video is actually a little early. The Loki series doesn't come out for a while and it may seem like I'm jumping the gun, but if the Loki from the mini-series on Disney Plus ends up adding more to the initial character we're looking at today, well, that just means I get to make a part 2. And despite the fact that my part 2s never really do very well, it's still more content for you guys. Either way, let's not waste any time today. Today we are looking at Loki, the adoptive son of Odin and Frigga from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thousands of years ago, Loki was found by Odin on the Frost world Jotunheim after he was abandoned by the Frost King giant Laufey, who was also his biological father. Odin transformed Loki's appearance to fit in better with the other Asgardians, and he was then raised as Thor's brother. But where Thor became the cool jock himbo that everybody loved, Loki became the weird emo kid who people were always double checking why he brought his backpack to class. Unfortunately, Loki, being the weird theater kid that did not fit in well with the other Giga Chads of Asgard, instead dedicated his skill points into learning sorcery and illusion magic from his mother. Over the years, Loki used his magic to play pranks on Thor and his friends and became very, very good at it, thus earning himself the title as God of Mischief, which is a very, very generous interpretation as to what his pranks are, considering that canonically, this is one of them.
There was one time when we were children, he transformed himself into a snake, and he knows that I love snakes. So I went to pick up the snake to admire it, and he transformed back into himself, and he was like, "Yeah, it's me!" And he stabbed me.
Granted, this was an improvised line from Chris Hemsworth, and it's still worth noting that Loki always had a violent competitive streak to his relationship with Thor. However, we will give this the benefit of the doubt, considering that Asgardians are just built kinda different. Thor probably just shrugged this off, considering we can see him take on much more serious injuries as an adult, but either way, considering Loki's reputation within Asgard and some stuff that we learn later in Thor Ragnarok, we're going to give Loki the benefit of the doubt and label him as chaotic neutral at the beginning of the series. This is obviously not where he ends up.
Breathtaking.
Tabletop for the End of the World is the first actual play podcast of its kind. It is the only dual narrative actual play podcast in the world featuring a Dungeons & Dragons game played within the context of a dystopian audio drama. TFU follows 4 survivors in a post-apocalyptic America ruled by a single corporate entity. These 4 survivors find comfort in an ancient game known as Dungeons & Dragons as they get swept up in a revolution against their overlords. If you're familiar with Welcome to the Night Vale or The Adventure Zone, their fans have described it as sort of a post-apocalyptic love child. I've been listening to it on occasion on a few of my workouts, and it's a good way to get through stuff. It's definitely a unique experience. You should give it a try. The cast of TFU care a lot about supporting meaningful causes too. So for every review they receive on the Podchaser, they are donating $1 to the Environmental Defense Fund. If you want to tune in, you can check them out on iTunes, Spotify, Podchaser, Switcher, or wherever podcasts are found. And you can follow them on their Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at TFUcast. So, with that out of the way, let's go.
I am a god, you dull creature, and I will not be bullied by that. Frost giants.
The first thing we see Loki do in the MCU is reveal a path for the Frost Giants to get into the Asgard Vault. He claims he did this to ruin his brother's big day. But this is technically treason since the Frost Giants can use this later as well. Also, it results in the Frost Giants' death, so this is chaotic evil.
Nothing you can do without defying Father. No, I know that's the only...
With a few words, Loki subtly convinces Thor to go to... listen, you guys already make fun of me enough for not pronouncing, stuff correctly, even though I think I do. So I'm just going to call it Frost World. Loki convinced Thor to go to Frost World to get him into trouble. I honestly don't think he intended to get him banished, so we're just going to say chaotic neutral.
Run back home, little princess.
Dad.
It seems like Loki honestly wanted to get away from Frost World without causing any problems, so I'm just going to give him a neutral for defending himself.
I love Thor more dearly than any of you, but you know what he is.
Loki confessed to ratting out on Odin and refused to help Thor get back to Asgard. He honestly has a point too, so I'll just say lawful neutral.
Am I?
You're my son.
What more than that?
Loki learns of his heritage and gets pissed at Odin for not telling him. They get into a fight and then Odin just pieces out for the rest of the movie. Odin's sleep my ass. Chaotic neutral.
You can bring your urgent matter to me.
You're king.
While Odin is in the Odin sleep, Loki assumes the throne of Asgard. During this time, he also lies to Thor to keep him on Earth, claiming that it would be part of the Frost Giants treaty. Depending on how you look at this, this could be evil, but I'd argue Loki isn't really twisting the knife, as it were. He's just doing this as a clean way of getting Thor away from the throne. For the sake of pacing of the video, I'm just going to say chaotic neutral, but if you want to say chaotic evil, I honestly would almost agree with you.
Kill him.
After all I've done for you.
Loki tells Lofri, the Frost Giant King, that he will figure out a way for him to get into Asgard and kill Odin. Loki actually uses this as an opportunity to cement himself as the hero of Asgard, as well as eliminating the threat of the Frost Giants forever. Since his ultimate plan is, genocide, I'm going to call this chaotic evil.
Ensure my brother does not return.
After Thor's friends leave to get him, Loki sends the destroyer to kill them. Neutral evil. Loki plans to use the Bifrost to destroy Frostworld. Thor attempts to stop him, and Loki is defeated. When Loki explains that he did this to impress Odin, Odin rejects him, and he just falls to his death in the wormhole that leads him to Thanos. Chaotic evil.
Sir, please put down the spear.
After the events of Thor, Loki lands in a place called the Sanctuary, where he then makes a deal with Thanos. Thanos supplied him with the scepter containing the Mind Stone so that he can accrue followers like a millennial accrues debt. He then invades Earth and takes over the minds of several people on his way to world domination. Lawful evil. After taking over Hawkeye and Dr. Selvig, Loki is pointed to the MacGuffin in Germany. He goes there, gets the thing, and then heads out into a public and commands them to kneel before him. Also, the old guy standing up to him and then Cap showing up and comparing Loki to Hitler is kind of a Nat 20 scene for me, I'm sorry. Neutral evil for the MacGuffin, and chaotic evil for the kneel.
Listen well, brother.
I'm listening.
Thor shows up and takes Loki away from the Avengers. Iron Man then shows up to have a fight, and Loki just hangs around and allows them to attack each other. Neutral. While in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s custody, Loki somehow used the magic of the scepter to affect the Avengers and started getting them to fight each other and mistrust each other. Basically, he was doing everything in his power to stop them from teaming up. While being questioned by Black Widow, he mocks her and makes fun of her, thinking that he had a one-up on her. Honestly, after threatening Natasha, the rest of the movie becomes kind of a Nat 20. This scene in particular is Nat 20, and just how everything is done, this is just really good. Also, chaotic evil twice.
Are you ever not going to fall for that?
Loki attempts to kill Thor by trapping him in the Hulk cage and then dropping him. Oh no, I totally forgot that he kills Phil too. No!
I have an army.
We have a Hulk.
Loki's plan was to divide the Avengers by pissing all of them off and trying to pit them against each other. As Tony says,
Not a great plan.
after realizing what he said was probably true, he instead elects to kill Iron Man himself. Neutral evil.
Send the rest.
Loki squares off against pretty much most of the team. Against Hawkeye, Thor, Hulk. It does not work out for him. Nat 20 scene.
I'll have that drink now.
Loki surrenders after the battle for New York, where he pretty much remains that way until Thor 2, so neutral.
It is my birthright.
Your birthright was to die.
Loki treats his trial on Asgard as a big joke and just accepts his punishment while getting in a few clever words. Chaotic neutral.
Your father.
He's not my father!
Then am I not your mother?
Frigga, Loki's mom, made his imprisonment as pleasant as possible and gives him much better treatment than he frankly deserves. And he responds by being a massive brat and insulting her and their whole family. Honestly, it's sad how much he'll come to regret it later, but still chaotic evil.
You might want to take the stairs to the left.
Loki sees a berserker from a culture he doesn't recognize break out of prison and then starts causing havoc. As a bit of revenge, he advised the Dark Elf to go into the right direction. He couldn't possibly predict that this would result in the death of Frigga. I'm just gonna give this a chaotic neutral, but if you say evil since he intended for the berserker to kill his father, it's a bit of a stretch, but I wouldn't argue.
You must be truly desperate to come to me for help.
Thor approaches Loki and asks him to show him a way off of Asgard so that they can go trick the big bad evil guy into pulling the ether out of Jane so that Thor can destroy it. The plan doesn't work, but Loki is pretty much cooperative the entire time and does do some things to go out of his way to help Thor, so shockingly lawful good. On his own, and without any provocation, Loki protects Jane. Granted, he does ultimately benefit from this by faking his death and taking over Asgard, but he does a few nice things. Probably to ease his conscience, but whatever, neutral good.
Thank you, Father.
No. Thank you.
At the end of Thor 2, Loki apparently places a spell on Odin and puts him in a retirement home, the one that we see in Thor Ragnarok. During this time, Loki spends the next 2 years or so ruling Asgard very passively, and apparently the other realms fell into disarray without Odin's heavy-handed rulings. I'm going to give Loki 1 chaotic evil for removing his father's agency, and 1 chaotic neutral for lying to everyone, and then 1 true neutral for just being a bad ruler. So this really doesn't amount to anything. It's just kind of a hot potato alignment wheel. Loki abandons Earth to Hela's rampage. This does not work, and he is ejected to Sakaar, chaotic neutral.
Loki! Loki!
Throughout most of Thor Ragnarok, Loki is thriving and kind of minding his own business. He doesn't actively sabotage Thor's time while he's there or anything like that. He's just being Loki and doing well and earning the Grandmaster's favor. Neutral, twice. Oh, but him cheering on Hulk during the fight is just nat 20 scene. I die every time.
If you were to give me 12 hours, I could bring them both back to you alive.
I could do it in 2.
I could do it in 1.
As we approach Act 3 of Ragnarok, Thor escapes containment with Hulk. Grandmaster then commissions Loki and Valkyrie to go find them. They both immediately betray Grandmaster and do their own thing in fight. Chaotic neutral.
Hey, let's do get help.
What?
Get help.
No.
Come on.
No.
We're doing it.
We are not doing get help.
Loki and Thor team up to escape Sakaar. Loki tries to betray Thor, but he became too predictable and got bamboozled. Chaotic evil.
Your savior is here!
This is lovely, though. The culmination of both Loki and Thor's character arcs is them learning from each other. Thor learns to think his way around problems from Loki, and Loki gets a big goddamn hero moment, naturally while playing it up the whole time. Fantastic. Neutral good.
So what do we do?
I'm not doing get help.
Thor and Valkyrie distract Hela while Loki heads to the vault and completes the prophecy to fulfill Ragnarok. He snags the Tesseract while he's down there, and this is seen as a bad thing in Infinity War, but I don't really see it that way. Lawful good.
If you were here, I might even give you a hug.
I'm here.
Duh.
All right, stop!
Loki gives up the Tesseract to protect Thor after Thanos calls his bluff from earlier in the movie. Chaotic good.
We'll never be.
So, this scene leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. Infinity War is a big movie, and it's really long, but I feel like Loki breaks all kinds of character here, trying to stab Thanos in the neck. I understand he wants to help his brother, and he's clearly turned a new leaf, but Loki is so much smarter than this. Still, though, I understand why this scene exists, because it's meant to close Loki's character arc, and I'll talk more about it in the post-analysis, so stick around, but it's a bittersweet chaotic good.
Piss off, Ghost! He's freaking gone.
So, I mentioned that I didn't like Loki's death, and I stand by it. While it was good and fast, and it kept the pace fast for Infinity War, it was almost too fast and too stupid for a move to be done by Loki, of all people. Loki is a giant drama queen and loves big dramatic moments, so I suppose his death may have been his way of saying goodbye to Thor. He finally realized how important his family was to him after losing his father and his mother, so it just seems weird to me that he threw his life away for a plan that was doomed to fail, and it ultimately accomplished nothing. Then again, it was also a moment designed to show just how powerful Thanos was at the time. and it did a decent job of capping out Loki's character arc, but believe me when I say it's also my only big gripe about Infinity War, and Loki as a character for that matter. Otherwise, Loki is just a fantastic character, and I can't wait to see where his Disney Plus series leads to. Next week, we take a look at another superhero series. I've been working out a lot, so I'm hoping that I can actually cosplay this character soon. I already look old enough, so I just gotta get his physique down. Big points to anyone who can guess what it is in the comments. I'll go ahead and thumb it up if anyone guesses it. I'll see you next time, though.